Listen, I'm not going to sit here and continue when they've moved on.
Welcome back to my channel, the one and only channel that is brave enough to lift the lid on the Brown secrets they struggled to cover. And today, that lid isn't just figurative, because in the back of a courthouse basement, lost amidst piles of dusty case files and abandoned storage, a banker's box was discovered. A simple cardboard box, its edges frayed, its label faded to the naked eye. Nothing. To the Browns, everything. Among its contents were documents that never should have been exposed to light, financial transfers showing clandestine draining, contracts in conflict with sworn statements, receipts that spelled out deception, and most incriminating handwritten scribbles that disclosed intent to lie, to manipulate, to annihilate. When the prosecution walked that box into court, the atmosphere shifted. Christine leaned in. Breath stopped. Janelle clutched her lawyer's arm. Mary stood still, her expression impassive. Kody fidgeted in his chair, his swagger finally breaking. Robin's hand flew to her lips. They knew the truth was about to come out. But first, I need to take you into that courtroom and reveal to you the incendiary materials in the banker's box of secrets. Before I do that, I just have to ask, do you think Christine and Janelle are owed justice for decades of fraud? If so, stand with them today. Break the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next installment in this falling empire. Because this isn't a story. This is accountability. Now, let's begin again. Let's follow how a single unmarked cardboard box led to the Browns' darkest secrets. The trial that shook the family, the case had already held the court hostage for weeks. The charges were severe: fraudulent hiding of marital assets, breach of fiduciary responsibility, abuse of joint funds. Christine and Janelle had done their research. Their lawyers gave the picture of a man who espoused oneness but practiced avarice, while Kody Brown marketed America's wholesome family values. Off camera, he was siphoning the very funds intended to support all his wives and children, and who, repeatedly, showed up as his cosigner, his protector, his enabler. Robin. The defense fired back. They called it petty jealousy. They called it exaggeration. The numbers don't lie, Kody insisted, and they will show we've done nothing wrong. But then came discovery. Court orders demanding every financial document, every contract, every transfer. The Browns thought they had it handled. They thought they'd buried the past deep enough. They were wrong, because hidden away in a plain storage room was a banker's box no one was ever meant to discover. The reveal as the prosecution wheeled the box into court. There were whispers that swept through the gallery. "Another stunt?" Kody scoffed, attempting to brush it off. Robin gripped his arm more tightly than normal. The chief prosecutor, steady and measured, set the box down on the evidence table. He put on white gloves, opened the lid, and started drawing out files. Cashier's checks first, big amounts drawn right out of the family trust. All signed by Kody, many co-signed by Robin, dates all corresponding with withdrawals the other wives had never heard about. Next, contracts with TLC. They spelled out pay structures wildly different from what Kody testified under oath. The family pot, he swore, was evenly divided. The contracts showed amendments, special percentages, routed directly to an account controlled by Kody and Robin. Then, receipts for luxury purchases, jewelry, vacations, property improvements on Robin's house, all bought while Christine and Janelle were left scrambling to cover basics for their children. And then the documents that chilled the courtroom, scribbled papers in Kody's unmistakable handwriting, to do lists of tactics. One read, "Keep, Janelle. In dark. Push Mary, refinance. Christine, Faye leverage. Emotional Faye weak spot." Kody and Robin came in last. Robin's eyes were red, her face swollen from crying. Kody, on the other hand, seemed toughened, jaw clenched, set on taking back the reins of the story. His attorney walked in with affected swagger, but even he understood the burden of what was left in that box. The judge slammed her gavel. "We are in session again, Mr. Davis. You may continue." The prosecutor stood up, a hint of a smile at the edges of his lips. "Thank you, Your Honor. As indicated earlier, recess, this box holds one last category of evidence. Letters. Not official letters, not agreements, but letters written by hand, which disclose the real motive behind the Browns' financial manipulation." The courtroom was silent. The prosecutor picked up a pile of old yellow envelopes, each having dates, some dating back almost a decade. He held one up. This October 2015 letter, written by Kody Brown to Robin, was discovered in the money documents, buried in the same folders as bank transfer accounts. He started reading. Robin, I know the others won't get it. They never look at the bigger picture. They'll think I am taking from them. But we both know this money is better off with us. They don't take me seriously. But with you, I can create something real. Trust me, let them grumble. By the time they realize what I've done, it will be too late. Gasp after gasp echoed in the courtroom. Christine covered her mouth with her hand. Janelle shook her head in shock, muttering, "Too late? He was planning this all along." The prosecutor folded the letter crisply. This is not the voice of a man guarding his family. This is the voice of a man planning to defraud the very women who stood by him for years. The defense lawyer protested, accusing the letter of being taken out of emotional context. But it was too late now. The prosecutor withdrew another letter. It was penned by Robin's hand. Kody, I hate the fighting, but I'll follow you. If you say the money belongs with us, then that is what we'll do. Just promise me. When the others walk away, it will be me and you left standing. Robin buried her face in her hands. The jury looked at her, impassive but obviously shaken by the intimacy of her testimony. Christine's attorney leaned forward, speaking sternly. Your Honor, these letters demonstrate coordination, collusion, and intent to hide assets. This isn't conjecture, it is confession. The judge admitted the letters into evidence. From there, the prosecution constructed its case. Brick by brick, the banker's box had turned into a Pandora's box, opening up and spilling out secrets nobody could halt. A third letter was read, dated March 2017. This one shook Mary to her very foundations. Mary is distant. She'll never question the finances because she's too busy trying to keep her place in the family. If she asks, I'll tell her it's complicated. But really, she doesn't need to know. She's not part of the long-term plan anyway. Mary's face went pale, tears welled in her eyes. She looked at Kody, her expression one of betrayal so deep it seemed to hollow her out. All these years, she thought she was paranoid, insecure, going overboard. But here it was, in his own handwriting, telling her what she most dreaded. She was never really a part of it, but tolerated instead. The courtroom fell silent once more, weighed down by her devastation. Even some jurors fidgeted in their seats. The judge permitted her a moment before indicating the prosecutor to proceed. And then came the most incriminating article of all, a letter penned only a year prior to the court case. The prosecutor read verbatim Robin, I don't care what Christine or Janelle threaten, they can sue all they want. Without proof, they're powerless. Everything is in our name. Let them scream. Let them tape their little confessionals. In the end, money talks, and we'll still have it. They won't. The gallery gasped once more loudly this time. Someone whispered, monster. Christine sat up straight, anger blazing in her eyes. She whispered to her attorney, this is it. This confirms everything. The defense lawyer attempted to recover what he could, asserting that these were private marital communications. But the prosecutor replied with speed. Marital communications explicitly about concealment of funds related to this case. That is not privacy. That is evidence. Robin shook her head angrily, mouthing, that is not true. But Madison persisted. We were told it was for the family, but it wasn't. Mom had to scrounge around for Bill's money, while Dad and Robin spent money on new furniture, new cars, and vacations we didn't find out about until later. The prosecutor gave Madison a piece of paper. Do you know what this is? Yes, Madison answered. One of the receipts I made copies of before I left Flagstaff. This was for a shopping spree in Las Vegas private. Almost $20,000 signed by Robin. The defense sprang to their feet. Objection, hearsay. But the prosecutor was quick to respond. Your Honor, this receipt was right out of the banker's box, supported by bank statements. Miss Brown is attesting to its authenticity. The judge nodded. Overruled. Go on. Madison was steadfast. I loved my dad, but he lied to us. He spent family money supporting a lifestyle that he shared only with Robin. We were instructed to say nothing, to be loyal. But loyalty should not equal silence when you witness stealing. Christine brushed away tears. Janelle shut her eyes, tears of pride and her daughter's bravery on her face. The prosecutor thanked Madison and called the next witness. Your Honor, the state calls Leon Brown. Mary's kid slipped in quietly, standing tall, and the hairpin turn of the energy in the room seemed palpable. Unlike Madison, Leon wasn't clutching papers. They walked as if their testimony was exclusive memory, from wounds carved into scars. Leon, the prosecutor, started gently. Can you describe your experience with the family's finances? Leon sighed. I wasn't directly involved, but I knew. We all did. It wasn't difficult to see. Mom had a tough time, always wondering where she was at in the family. Dad used money as a tool to control, to reward, to punish, and Robin stood right there with him. Kody banged his hand on the table. That is a lie. The gavel of the judge came down. Mr. Brown, one more such outburst, and I will hold you in contempt. Leon didn't blink, they went on. I saw Mom cry about bills. I saw her plead with Dad to tell her why she couldn't know what was going on with the accounts. He'd say she was paranoid, that she needn't worry, but it wasn't paranoia, it was manipulation, and now proof is here. In that box, the gallery hummed once more. Mary cried quietly, shoulders convulsing. Leon looked in her direction, sharing a look of solidarity. The defense attorney attempted to discredit Madison and Leon, referring to them as disgruntled children with emotional biases. But the prosecutor was prepared. Your Honor, bias doesn't account for bank statements. Bias doesn't account for signed receipts. Bias doesn't account for handwritten letters from the defendants themselves. These witnesses put some context to the evidence, and the evidence does speak for itself. The judge nodded. Sustained, the witnesses remained standing. By lunchtime, tension was stifling, but the prosecution had another trick up its sleeve. Your Honor, the state calls Bonnie Alstrom. Mary gasped. Her dead mother's closest friend and confidante slowly strode to the stand. A mature woman now, her hands shook a little, but in her eyes there was the burden of years of experience. Mrs. Alstrom, the prosecutor started softly. May you tell us what you saw? She nodded. I was there when Mary would call me, in the middle of the night, questioning whether or not she was crazy. She told me about money gone missing, about never kept promises. I informed her she wasn't crazy. She was being silenced. And now that I've seen these documents, I realize she was right all along. The defense protested again, stating her testimony was irrelevant hearsay. But the judge permitted it. This court is considering both the numbers and the human cost. Go on. Bonnie stared at Kody. I've known you for decades, and I never thought I'd live to see this day. But you've done this to yourself. You betrayed every woman who loved you, and no box of secrets can conceal that anymore. The gallery was absolutely silent. Even the jurors had stopped breathing. By the time court recessed, the air was charged. The banker's box was no longer merely a receptacle of documents. It was now the platform on which long-stifled voices finally rang out. The children, the friends, the papers, together, they told a story impossible to ignore. As the judge sent everyone out, Christine and Janelle hugged their daughters. Mary hugged Leon, both of them quietly crying. Kody stormed out without even glancing at anyone. Robin trailed behind, holding her purse, her face a picture of desolation. And in that instant, the Browns' empire appeared to fracture just a bit more. The structure, established on loyalty, secrecy, and domination, was weakening under the stress of reality, but the coup de grace was yet to come. The prosecution threatened a final revelation from the banker's box, something so incendiary that it would not only establish the Browns' financial fraud but reveal the very essence of their flailing dynasty. And as the crowd streamed out, the gossip mounted. What was left in that box? The courtroom hummed like a hive as the last day of testimony arrived. Reporters filled the steps outside. Fans of the program stood in groups, some clutching signs, some rubbing their heads in wonder. Everyone was wondering what else could there possibly be in that box. When the judge sat down, he didn't dawdle. Counsel, proceed. The prosecutor rose slowly, carrying a single file folder. Your Honor, the box contained one last set of documents. Until now, we've shown financial statements, receipts, and letters. But this, he paused, glancing toward Kody and Robin, this is different. The gallery leaned forward. Even the defense shifted uneasily. The prosecutor set the folder on the evidence table, slapping it sharply for emphasis. This, Your Honor, is a contract. A contract that has been kept private, never revealed to the court, the family, or even the network, signed by Kody Brown himself. Gasps erupted in the room. Christine squeezed Janelle's hand. Mary tensed in her seat. Cody's face went white. Robin grabbed at his arm, whispering something wildly. The judge peered over the rim of his glasses. What sort of contract? The prosecutor's tone turned cold. A contract that exposes where the money actually was going. A contract that might tell us everything. But before the prosecutor could go any further, the defense sprang to their feet. Objection, Your Honor. This is not an authenticated document. We move for it to be excluded immediately. The judge hunched forward. Counsel, sit down. This court will hear what is in that contract. The room exploded. The bailiff cried for order, as the gavel came down repeatedly. At last, silence. The prosecutor opened the folder, drawing out a neat sheaf of papers. He held them aloft so the jury could read. This agreement, he stated slowly, outlines a clandestine agreement between Kody Brown, Robin Brown, and a third party. He allowed the words to hang there. A third party? The judge asked, echoing him. Yes, Your Honor, the prosecutor replied. A silent partner who funded their lifestyle, their homes, their so-called family nest egg. And in return, the Browns offered something shocking. Something no one in this courtroom would ever have imagined. The gallery gasped once more, Christine whispered. No, it can't be. Janelle put her hand over her mouth. Mary shook her head, mumbling under her breath. Please, don't let it be true. The judge waved his hand impatiently. Get to the point, counselor. What did they offer? The prosecutor drew in a deep breath. Your Honor, the Browns offered control, they conveyed. He cut himself off abruptly. Robin gripped Cody's arm more tightly. Kody glared at the ground, eyes blazing with anger and humiliation. The prosecutor glanced over at the judge. Your Honor, I think the jury and the families should be able to hear this all the way through. But because of the volatile nature of what this contract has, I respectfully ask that we have a recess before proceeding. The judge furrowed her brow, but after a long moment, nodded. Very well. We will resume tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. sharp. Court is adjourned. The judge concurred. The letters weighed the room open in ways that testimony hadn't. They weren't figures on spreadsheets. They were admissions, feelings, manipulations, raw proof of a man working out betrayal, and a woman facilitating him. Linda Reynolds, bank officer, was called back briefly to verify the dates on the letters coincided with suspicious account activity. Her clear voice only strengthened the paper trail. As she left the stand, she turned once toward the jury. If I've learned anything in my years of banking, it's this. Money doesn't just disappear. It always leaves a trail, and sometimes it leaves a trail right back to the heart. The jury leaned forward. Hanging on every word, Kody, on the other hand, became agitated. He muttered furiously at his lawyer. He pounded his pen against the table in furious rhythms. He glared at Christine, at Janelle, even at Mary, as if she was responsible for this somehow. But Robin seemed shattered. She held on to her tissues, wiping at her eyes over and over again. At one point, she whispered to Kody, I told you this would come out. I told you. He disregarded her. The courtroom, which had been split in sympathy, was now solid in disbelief. Even Brown's longtime supporters shook their heads for the first time. The patriarch and his favorite wife weren't above reproach. They were laid bare, and the jury could sense it. The prosecutor ended the day with a final remark. Ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is not only financial mismanagement, it is betrayal disguised behind the name of family. This box is not merely evidence. It is the voice of deception, penned by the defendants themselves, and it tells a story they cannot deny. The judge ordered adjournment. The jury walked out in silence. The audience hummed, journalists scurrying for doors to craft headlines. Christine, Janelle, and Mary stood united at last in years, a wordless but formidable front. Kody sat still, shoulders rigid, expression vacant. Robin cried silently next to him, and the box, that humble, unpretentious banker's box, rested on the prosecution's table, its contents littering the courtroom, its secrets laid bare. The trial wasn't finished, though. There were still witnesses to be heard, more papers to reveal, and the emotional backwash was yet to come. The courthouse was packed the next morning. Rumor of the letters had spread. Local television stations broke news stories, love letters or evidence. Kody's own words surface in courtroom. By the time proceedings started, The gallery was full: reporters, legal commentators, and even Brown. Nosers filled the benches. The judge strode in. Court is now in session. The prosecution may continue. The prosecutor nodded and turned to the door. Your Honor, the state calls its next witness, Madison Brown. Gasps ran through the room. Madison, Janelle's oldest daughter, strode in confidently, her hair pulled back, papers in hand. She appeared neither nervous nor enthusiastic, just prepared. Kody's expression turned dark. Robin's eyes grew wide with shock. Christine gave Madison a quick, encouraging nod. The prosecutor stepped forward. Miss Brown, thanks for coming in today. What made you want to come in and testify? Madison answered firmly. Because I lived it, because I witnessed what was occurring, and because my mother and my aunts are worthy of the truth to finally be told. A buzz ran through the gallery. Let's begin with your involvement in the family finances, the prosecutor went on. I wasn't in charge, Madison replied, but I was old enough to see things. I helped out in the family business for a bit. I saw how money flowed in from the show, from appearances, from book deals, and how it flowed out, almost always one way. Which way? Madison stared at her father. Towards Dad and Robin. The tantrum only made him appear smaller, weaker, the booming patriarch who once was now looked cornered, his authority slipping through his fingers with each paper ripped from that cardboard box. Then the prosecution let the big one fly. He glanced over at the bailiff. Call our next witness. The door at the side of the courtroom opened. In walked a woman in her early 40s, plain suit, hair pulled into a tight bun. She clutched a small notebook. Her name, Linda Reynolds, a former bank compliance officer. The Browns' faces drained of color. Linda took the stand, swore her oath, and settled in. Her voice was calm, steady. I managed internal audits at Flagstaff First Bank. In 2019, I performed a compliance check of a number of high-value accounts. And what did you discover, Miss Reynolds? Linda opened her notebook. I discovered irregular withdrawals, ongoing transfers into an account not under the family trust, but under an LLC in the name of Kody and Robin Brown. The withdrawals just happened when there were deposits from TLC's production payments. The figures were large, frequently in the hundreds of thousands. Christine put her hands over her face. Janelle's jaw worked so hard it sounded like her teeth were grinding. The prosecutor gave Linda one of the papers out of the box. Do you recognize this? Yes, said Linda. This is my audit report. I identified it as suspicious. But when I complained to management, I was informed clients were high profile and that I should leave it alone. The courtroom grumbled once more. A bank protecting Kody and Robin? The tale was more sinister than anyone had known. The defense lawyer sprang to his feet. Your Honor, that is hearsay. This witness is introducing personal interpretation. Linda didn't blink. It is not interpretation. It is arithmetic. Money can't lie. The phrase slammed against the jury like a sledgehammer. Kody glanced at his attorney, his tone crisp but shaking. You said this was deep. You said nobody could link it. The attorney attempted to shush him, but the microphones caught it. The jury overheard it. The courtroom audience heard it. Christine heard it and cried silently. Robin blurted first. Her eyes welled. Her lip trembled. She murmured something to Kody, and for the first time he withdrew his arm from around her. The fissures in their coalition were starting to appear. The box still wasn't empty. The prosecutor pointed to the files. Miss Reynolds, we will come back to the audit in depth. But first, the court should be aware. Within this box is one additional type of document, personal letters. Notes written back and forth between Kody and Robin, concealed among their financial records. These letters demonstrate intent, not merely financial mismanagement, but a concerted effort to defraud. Kody's face went white. Robin covered her face in her hands. The gallery hummed more loudly than ever. The judge slammed her gavel. We will recess for lunch. Court will reconvene at 1:30. Everyone rose. The jury left. Christine and Janelle hugged silently at their table. Mary sat stunned, her mind spinning. Kody lashed at his attorney, anger in his eyes. You told me they'd never discover the box. You told me we were safe. But safety was no longer a possibility. The banker's box had been opened, and what it held would destroy the fantasy that Kody and Robin had created for more than 10 years. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about honesty, and the honesty was just beginning. When court reconvened that afternoon, the mood of the room had changed. Everyone took their seats hurriedly, mutters still circulating from what they had heard just before the break. Christine entered with her head held high, exuding quiet confidence. Janelle entered behind her. Serene but firm, Mary appeared agitated, adjusting her necklace. The gavel snapped. The gallery erupted in din, reporters swarming towards the exits. Family members turning to each other in shock, whispers of, "Who is the third party?" racing through the benches. Christine hid her face in her hands. Janelle hissed angrily to her attorney. Mary stared at Leon, shaking, as if she already knew the secret that was about to be unveiled, while Kody angrily stormed out, face flushed with rage. Robin trailed behind, lips clenched tightly, eyes flicking nervously. The banker's box, which had promised to be full of nothing more than old documents and lost records, had served up punch after punch. But tonight, with the agreement laid out on the table, the real knockout blow was waiting to land. For tomorrow, the world would know the answer to the question, rumored across the country. Who was the Browns' silent partner? And what did they ask for in return?